Morning. Welcome to the Future Skills for Construction session. My name's Mark Southgate. I am Chief Executive of an organisation called MOBI, the Ministry of Building Innovation and Education. We're not a government ministry, we're a charity trying to both improve the quality of home building in the UK and also get young people into the built environment, show them the built environment and get our future workforce, which is a big issue for the industry. So this session is all about future skills and what we need. But I was really keen on getting a panel of people who are actually doing something around that now, who are demonstrating different ways of doing things, I think being quite innovative in what they do, to show the art of the possible is already here, and actually what we need to do is expand it. So we've got 45 minutes. I'll ask them to introduce themselves very briefly, then do about 5 minutes each on what are the future construction skills, built environment skills that we need, and how can we do something around it, and then we'll go open to questions. I'll ask a couple, and then I'll throw it open to the audience. So be thinking about those questions you want to ask. But I'll go this way first and ask Bola to introduce yourself.
Morning, everyone. Very quickly, Dr. Bola Abisogun here. I'm the Chief Excitement Officer at the Digital Twin Skills Academy, and I'll say no more until I present later on.
We're going in. Hi, Mike Blakely, Executive Director of Future Skills and Apprenticeships at Exeter College. And green skills is a really significant part of what we're doing down there in the southwest now, and a brilliant agenda, and we'll talk through more about what we're up to.
Morning, my name is Natalie King, and I'm the Operations Director and Vice Principal of Excel Construction School in Gloucestershire.
Good morning, my name is Ian Heptonstall. I'm Director of the Supply Chain Sustainability School.
Fantastic. They've all introduced themselves, so I think most of them have got slides. So we'll start with Ian. Do you want to go first and just give your intro to what are the skills we need and what are you doing at the Supply Chain School to help?
That's great. Thanks, Mark. Well, good morning, everybody. So we're going to be hearing this morning about skills, the need for skills, and we're going to also be looking at who needs those skills as well and what skills do they need. My own organisation, over the last 10 months, we've actually educated 37,000 people in the construction industry about what we believe are the emerging needs and skills which are required within the industry. So very simply, our vision as an organisation is an industry where everyone will have the skills and knowledge to build a sustainable future. So it's a bit of somebody said to me, it's a hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what we want to achieve. However, let's get into the detail of that, because let's start off by saying, what are the three big challenges that we have within the industry? I think the three big challenges we have within the industry are safety, Building Safety Act, etc., and making sure that the buildings we build are safe for the people in them, and making sure that when we're building buildings, we build them in a safe manner. And I'd also put well-being within that as well. Net zero, we're here today, is future build. Net zero is our passion as an organisation. It's why we were founded, hence Supply Chain Sustainability School. And the final one's around productivity as well. And I often say this, there's no point being the greenest business out there if in 12 months' time you're bust. You've got to, sustainability is about the three pillars of sustainability. Yes, get the environmental bit right, got to get the economic bit right, and we've also got the social bit right as well. So if we're going to deliver all those three things, what are the enablers? What are the kind of skill sets which are going to help us to do that? And first of all, I want to say my own organisation, we're reaching managers, leaders, directors of predominantly small and medium-sized organisations. People can drive change in their organisations. We're going to be hearing today from other people who'll be talking about how do you educate the next generation, how do you educate young people, how do you educate the trades and subcontractors who are installing heat pumps or whatever the new technologies are as well. But I'm going to be focusing on that kind of managers, leaders and directors of small businesses and what they need to be doing. So what's the new skills and knowledge they need? Well, fundamentally, we need to be able to build differently. So yes, there's a whole issue about the green skills, and we'll hear more about that. And we're here today, so there's lots and lots about green skills. And for example, one of those areas is retrofit. And there's a retrofit seminar for you to absolutely hear, just talking about what retrofit skills are required to going forward. Really important that we upskill the current workforce, the current tradesmen that come and do work on our buildings, or the current tradesmen who work on on commercial buildings or social housing buildings, upskill them to deliver the green buildings that we need going forward. However, we also need to know about modern methods of construction. Again, we'll see today that we're talking about off-site, we're talking about modular, we're talking about the various different modern methods of construction levels and the modern methods of construction, the M&C hierarchy. We also need to know about lean. If we're going to be productive, if we're going to use less materials, if we're going to have less waste, we've got to put lean at the centre of what we do as well. And finally, I'd throw in, we need to understand about digital construction. I see all these 5 things as absolute key skills that managers and leaders and business owners need to have if they're going to deliver those 3 overall objectives up at the top. I think it's important for us to see, what are we trying to achieve? How do we build differently? What are the skills and knowledge we need to do that? However, underneath all of that, I'm increasingly beginning to understand that we can teach this middle level of things relatively easy. However, as an industry, what we really need to do is look at these last 3 things. We've got to make sure that the management themselves have the right abilities to drive change in their organizations. Do the owners and managers and leaders of businesses have that skill set to actually drive change in organizations? Do we have the right culture in our industry? Do we have the culture to actually look for continual improvement? And finally, that makes you question as well, are the people within our industry, have we got a wide enough talent pool for the people in our industry? And I think if we don't get these bottom 3 right, it's very difficult to actually make sure that we're actually driving change through organizations. So in parts of our industry, we're seeing major contractors delivering 1%, 2%, 3% margins, and that's all they're reaching. That's not sustainable, and it also doesn't allow people to take the risk to drive change in their organizations. So we need to do something different at the bottom to enable us to get those enablers of change, to build differently, to deliver those 3 key strategic objectives, those strategic challenges that we've got to achieve. That's me finished, and no doubt we'll have some discussions around that.
Thank you, Ian. We'll hand over to Natalie now, but I think some really interesting issues around those 3 themes. So we've got safety, net zero, and also culture was in there, I think, as well. So if there are any other themes you can think of, very happy to hear those from the floor later on. But we'll pass over to Mike's going to go next.
You're going to go, yeah. Ooh. Excellent, good morning. I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey that is Exeter College. Who's got the clicker? I need that. With my responsibility, we're a 15,000 community of learners down at Exeter College. My brief is, alongside our apprenticeship programme, which is vast, is to look at what future skills an FE college of our size should be delivering. The challenge that we unravelled was something like this, is we heard for a long, long time that green skills were shouted to us loud and proud, and no one really knew what they were. And we had to take a long, hard look at ourselves and go, actually, what is it that we need to respond to? And actually, when we looked a bit deeper, we found that actually no one had defined what that was. So we had to take ourselves on a journey and actually set that agenda. And we've done that in a really unique way, and it's something that we're very, very proud of. Full transparency, this is one of those 3 AM ideas that you build on the back of a cigarette packet and you go, I think we can do something of this ilk. So we designed something that brought all of our stakeholders together on the basis of, in FE, we have to become experts very, very quickly in the subject matter that we have to deliver. We've got to ensure credibility, we've got to ensure we deliver the right set of skills. And the stark reality as new sectors evolved was, we didn't have the ability to do that, we didn't have the expertise, and we didn't have the curriculum. So we got together a whole host of stakeholders, and this was January 2022. It started with 12 people sat around a boardroom table, and I'd hand-selected those people, and I put a chair in place that was right for that role in terms of quite assertive, and I said, you challenge us in terms of a you said, we did type approach, so that we at Exeter College could stride forward in terms of making sure we deliver the programme that we deliver. We went as far and as wide as we could across our region to make sure that we had full representation, and our aim was that if you looked down on a heat map across England and you looked at which college was delivering the most range of skills, Exeter College would sing loud and proud in terms of that provision. So we shaped something that came up with this, is the mission that we went on was to raise awareness in terms of the net zero agenda and the educational need and the skills required to make that positive impact. And we wanted to do that through a whole host of outreach activities. So that's primary school, secondary school, colleges, community groups, and anybody who's really interested in the journey that we've been on. Pillar 2, partnerships and collaboration. We knew that having 12, which grew to 24, and 24 grew to 48, and 48 is now somewhere in the region of 160 stakeholders, we need as much insight and support really to shape that offer and make sure that we deliver what we need to deliver. And it's been absolutely fantastic in terms of making that come to life. And then the real sort of heart of the challenge is programme design and delivery. The landscape is pretty barren. If you wanted to start a net zero college tomorrow, you'd be sorely disappointed in terms of what you can offer from scratch because it just simply doesn't exist. So together we shaped that and we moved that forwards. And then it grew into a whole load of range of KPIs, mission statements and so on and so on. But the real aim of our game is to keep it simplified. So you said, we did, those stakeholders set the challenge, and from there we've now created this movement that has driven that forwards, and we've had a really, really significant impact in terms of our local area and now beyond. So from small acorns grow mighty oaks, and never in our wildest dreams did we expect a collaboration of this nature to grow and evolve. But as soon as some people started hearing about the hotspot that was going on in Exeter and the work that they've done, so for example, every single student in Exeter College will have a touch point on the net zero agenda. Every traditional apprenticeship in the construction trades will do a retrofit and green skills programme as part of their course. We burden all of that on our shoulders because there is no funding available for it, but it excited the sector. And so before we knew it, we had this whole range of GCAPs building up, and then we started to work with our manufacturer base. And we developed courses in line that, again, because they simply don't exist, we've worked very closely with NOCN, and we now have this national network of either green caps that are driving their local agenda, and even today somebody's just spoken to me about it and said, we've probably got one that we're going to build in Sunderland, and a network of installer manufacturers who are training their staff, and for the first time ever in terms of external wall insulation, a recognised competency qualification that doesn't take 18 months and can lead on to an MVQ. And our author of that is Paul, who's sat over there in the audience. So huge thank you to Paul, who came to GCAP as a member of a housing association senior leadership team and now leaves GCAP as one of our tutors as we've recruited him, because there again is the other significant challenge that we face. So national impact is growing, and we're delighted that we're at the heart of that and we're pushing that forward as we go. That is a quick summary of what we've achieved to date. I won't go through them all in detail because of time, but picking out a few ones. We've built our Retrofit Skills Centre. We simply have created so much demand, we're having to build another. So we're going to be 500 square metres of training space launched in September. We've got course development, about 13 different courses that Exeter College has developed with its employer partners, which we can now deliver to all of those stakeholders. We've got awarding body endorsement, so NOCN work very, very closely with Exeter. If we can build a course, they will endorse it, they will accredit it, they will affiliate those programmes so that actually we can start spreading that across the nationwide sector. And finally, we've started to create traction on funding success. So one of the big problems that holds us back in Future Skills, the government do not fund provision of these programmes because they don't exist yet in the framework. So in that want to deliver those programmes, we have to overcome that significant barrier and make sure that we can generate some income to cover costs of all of those. But if anybody wants to talk about other key elements of that, they're more than welcome to come and talk to me. Huge thank you. I know we've only got 5 minutes, and hopefully Natalie's next.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. And actually, I'm quite glad we reversed the order, because I think what Exeter have done is really, really interesting, quite inspirational. I love the fact it's expanding so quickly. You've clearly found a need, and that is now growing. In Exeter's case, it was further education going, we've got to work better with industry to help provide what industry provides. Accel were on that list, and I know Accel are looking at their own Green Construction Advisory Panel. But what I love about Accel is it's the other way around. It's a brilliant example of industry going, we can't get the people. It's the and Natalie will tell this story, but summarise. It's one of the biggest risks for our industry. How do we get people in? How do we train them? And it's industry taking the lead. And I think that's great, because if you're going to criticise a sector, we can often go, we can't get the people we need. Well, how are you going to help us? Oh, we might not be able to help you. We're quite guilty of shouting but not doing. So I think Accel is a fantastic example of doing. So over to you, Natalie.
Thank you very much. Just an introduction to who we are, really. So 2 years ago, me and my sister built the UK's first industry-led construction school. So me and my sister are a third-generation construction company, £90 million SME civil engineering company in Gloucestershire. Sick and fed up of getting people out of college who weren't trained properly, couldn't get people into construction. 50% of our workforce will be retired in 5 to 10 years. Well, what are we going to do about it? I came from Kia Group, so a national PLC, same problem, different company. Everyone's moaning about it. What are we going to do about it? So in 2022, we opened Excel, a £4 million building. We had 1.96 million from government that was match funded to the tune of 2.5 million from the family company. 2.5 years later, we have nearly 100 apprentices on programme, 350 upskillers, and we're happy getting people through the doors every time. And we were on about BHAGs earlier. For us, it was, let's change it. Let's mix it up. If we're going to moan about FE and we're going to moan about colleges, not all colleges, Exeter obviously, they're not included. But if we're going to moan about colleges, let's come up with a solution. So for us, we employ 500 people. But we know that we are just one SME in the corner of England, and this is going on for a lot more construction companies throughout the UK. So the greater why for us, 217,000 more construction workers needed in the industry in the next 5 years, 15% of our workforce over 60, 22% of our workforce over 50, and if you're in construction, you're 3 times more likely to suffer a mental health illness than any other industry. And these stats aren't getting better, they're just getting worse. So big, hairy, audacious goals. So we set Excel up, and we were actually selling the concept on Teams and Zoom throughout COVID. And construction bosses were looking at us as if we were absolutely mad. So what are we doing? We're changing the face of construction education. We've built the school, that's done. We're on course to have one in all 4 corners of the country. We're changing construction education because it's not right, then the provision isn't correct in FE colleges. They don't have the practical space. We don't have the actual things to teach our young people that we need. So they get taught in the school, and then they practice outside. Everything from pipe laying and foundation digging through to your block paving, your basic nuts and bolts of construction, which is what we need. We're attracting people into construction. The thing is, we're not getting the younger generation in. So where's all that talent going? Where are we going to be in 5 years? And we need to bring the young people in, but make it an aspirational career. Who goes to these careers fairs where construction is basically the last thing that you should do if you haven't got any good grades? Well, what a load of rubbish that is. Construction is the most wonderful, diverse industry, and we have such fantastic opportunities. Let's get more young people in. So, and attract diversity. Obviously, me and my sister own and run Excel, and our whole senior management team is female. Let's get more females in, or underrepresented groups in general. Let's show people that it's such a great thing. So just some pictures of the last couple of years. We had Princess Anne there last year. We've had lots of the CEO of CITB, and we had a good argument with him for about 4 hours, so that was good. But for us, it's just lots of awards, lots of different things. But it's bringing the new skills in we need. We have a great partnership with JCB and Leica Geosystems. So we have brand new machinery every 6 months for our learners to train on. But it's not just about driving the machines, it's about the tech that's going to come in the next 5 to 10 years. The GPS machine control, everything that will be done remotely. Let's get, these are great things. You obviously need your operators, but that will be moving into digital arenas very, very quickly. Same with Leica Geosystems. You still need your surveyors, you still need your setting out engineers, but everything can be done digitally. Fine, let's teach these skills, let's bring more people in. And that's our school. So, like I said, we're growing, we're on course to build another one in the next couple of years. But like Mark said, let's think about it differently. Let's do things differently. And if we can do it as an SME, all the big boys and the PLCs can do it. So that's why we like to raise awareness of what we're doing and get the message out there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalie, and that's why I wanted you on a national stage, because I'm a big fan of what Excel do, because they are really breaking the barriers and they're leading with sort of passion, but they're also leading with money as well. They put the family business money into this, which I think is great. And you talked about two things in part of that. There's lots of other things as well. But you talked about how do we get the next generation in, given we have this massive issue around the age of our workforce. And you talked about the importance of digital and new technology. So it's being a perfect seam to Bola, who's going to talk about the Digital Twin Skills Academy. Digital is part... I talk about modern construction. And in modern construction, I think anybody coming into this industry now, and those of us who are already in it, must understand sustainability and are involved in that. We need to understand how digital is really going to change the way we run and build buildings. And we need to understand how manufacturing processes and thinking and process thinking should change the way we do things, because we have been very slow to change as an industry. So Bola's going to talk about the digital side of things, and then we'll throw it open to questions.
I am. Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. You well? Yay. Right, so lovely segue, by the way, regarding digital. So I'm the Chief Excitement Officer, Digital Twin Skills Academy, secrets in the name. First of all, show of hands, who knows what digital twin is? Half the audience. Okay, I won't define it because I think you might figure that out as we proceed. So, great panel, as you've heard. The challenge with going last is you mustn't repeat what you've just heard. And I think we've heard almost everything we need to hear about the challenge of skills. Who recognizes the image on the screen? Who's heard of Grenfell? Who's still upset about it? Who thinks the industry needs to do better? I'll ask the question again. Who thinks the industry needs to do better?
If anybody has your hand down, I'm going to come and find you.
Awesome. Right, so this is my passion. I'm 1.2 families away from someone that actually died in that fire. I'm a chartered quantity surveyor by profession, and I'm just tired of our industry. It's broken, but there's huge potential. When we think about digital, I was here 2 years ago, same story, as it says, March 22, talking about digital twins in social housing. Why? Because if Grenfell Tower had had a virtual twin before construction, that cladding issue may well not have happened. I was here again in May. I was in Manchester in 22. Talking about the same thing. Now, golden thread. Who's heard of the golden thread? Okay. Does anybody understand what the golden thread is? Show of hands. Evolving. I get you. I'm with you. Right. So it's a constantly evolving definition. But critically, it's talking about the creation of one thing. Who can read the red text on the screen? I'll read it for you if you can't see. The requirement to create, hold, and maintain the golden thread of information management. That's the current definition, or as it was May 22. What it's really saying is, for any project, not just high-rise residential, you've got to capture the way you build it through the design process, through the construction process, so by the time you're ready to occupy or use that asset, you have a 1-to-1 ratio with no design gap. Do you know what a design gap is? You design something, you build something, the two are not the same. That's what happened with Grenfell. Technically. So I, via the Academy, are trying to wake up the industry. Because who understands that this is our last year to get it right? Who understands what happened on the 1st of October last year when the Building Safety Act became a thing and buildings needed to get registered? Who understands that? Who understands that this year, 2024, is the last year for transition for us to get our skills into the right places and spaces as clients, design team, contractors, product manufacturers, allies, students. We all need to upskill this year. 2024 is the last year to get our skills in the right places and spaces. From the 1st of November 24, only God knows what will happen. Who understands the gateway process? Gateways, construction, very important. Thank you, sir. You need to understand what the gateways mean. Gateway 3 is the most important gateway because you cannot occupy a building unless and until you have a certificate saying it's safe. That certificate will only be issued if you have, in my world, created a digital twin of what you've built so that the regulator can approve what you've built and give you certification to use the asset for occupational purposes. So I'm talking about whole life cycle digital twins. But guess what? We've got some barriers. We've got clients that are barriers, no names mentioned. We've got designers that are barriers. We've got supply chains that are ill-equipped. we don't have the young people in the places and spaces to challenge either. The biggest challenge is a lack of commitment from clients. I call it the era of the intelligent client. Clients have to create better environments to create better decisions. These are the barriers. How do we dispel them? The panel will talk about them. My colleagues have mentioned some of what they are. And at the Digital Twin Skills Academy, we're not only trying to evidence diversity in our leadership, and this is our board. We are 12 months young, God willing, next month. We set up on the back of the Act, April last year, to create hybrid learning and training solutions for all the industry's employees, current 3 million people. My challenge to the sector is, what is it going to take to allow young people to come in? So I'm focused on the 16 to 25 cohort. I'm 53 years young, God willing. I know I don't look it. But I'm focused on the 16 to 25 cohort. Why? Because they get it. They're digital first, they're tech natives, they are flying down the road of adoption of digital twins. Why are we struggling at leadership level? Is it fear? Technically, it's lack of skills. We have a program, 3-step. It's all about social value, going into those urban inner city areas, picking up that talent. I go into schools, colleges, I go into prisons, and I share my story because there is talent in that system that needs the chance to come out and work. Create their own business if they can. And we are tying all of our effort to Section 106 and social value. Why? Because house builders have requirements, local authorities have requirements, everybody's got apprenticeship levy funding, they're not spending it wisely. The skills challenge is all of our challenge, ladies and gents. And we are actively trying to do what? That's our strapline. We are creating the talent pool the industry doesn't know it needs. Because by the time the industry wakes up and recognizes that we need digital first, tech native, agile, collaborative, diverse talent pools, it has to be before the 1st of November this year. So 2024 is critical. Let's have a conversation about how we can create some of those solutions. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Bola. So, a brilliant panel and lots of issues, that so many to cover. But actually, I'm going to pick up one of yours, Bola, around that sort of that gap between the people at the top who probably don't understand digital very well, hands up, yet are in charge of delivering it, and the people at the bottom, we're going to say, starting their careers, who have got all those skills and understand the need for change. How do we break that down? Do we need to, as leadership, be much more open to our younger workforce and engage them and bring them in more? Obviously, we're doing stuff around training them before they get there, but what about our existing workforce? Have you got any thoughts about that? And then my second one, this is for all the panel, is around this. We are an incredibly fragmented industry. We're fragmented at professional level and how we bring things together. Is digital twin and the act the driver to make some of those barriers disappear or force those barriers to disappear? So I'll start with Bola and we'll work along.
That's just a loaded question. So I'm going to take a chunk of it, and I'll focus on the 50 plus, where the experience sits at the moment. One of the challenges that I want to dispel is that intergenerational conversation. I want to get 50 plus people in the room alongside 16 to 25s, and I'm seeing a group over there. And this explosion of those conversations around what digital means is amazing, right? Schools, it's even more exciting. But one of the things we've really got to do well is we've got to leave our egos outside the room. There's a lot of arrogance around those that think they know everything. And there's a lot of fear about those that think they know everything, but actually they don't. So we've really got to have that intergenerational conversation going. Because we've got far too much technology. AI is propelling an exponential rate of change. I can't keep up. And I'm a subject matter expert, allegedly, right? So we need to figure out, how do we collaboratively come together, bring that young perspective into play, and understand that actually every day is a school day, right? And there's no silver bullet other than the fact that there's a new law in place called the Building Safety Act, so we've got to comply. And we've got to figure out how we get to the 1st of November with the right skills very quickly. And it kind of eats into everything you've heard. It's colleges, it's independent business, it's the supply chain school, it's the Mark Southgates of MOBI propelling that narrative. But frankly, we've got to have the conversation. And we've got to start beginning to think about what skills mean in terms of compliance and welfare and net zero and decarbonization, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll start with that.
So panel, which of those 1,000 questions would you like to take? It was around that fragmentation. It was also around, the difference between the young and the old and how we mix, and also that bit around the fragmentation in the industry.
I mapped out our stakeholder requests over a 6-week period, and we were into 3 figures in terms of ask. And we are bombarded by going, this is the agenda, this is the agenda, this is the agenda, this is the agenda. We end up going, we're really confused by this agenda. We aren't experts in terms of this type of thing. So the common thing that brings education together is the curriculum. So this absolutely is common sense, but it will take months, if not years, for this to appear in our curriculum. So actually, the driver that needs to actually gather momentum and pace is a live curriculum that is adjustable and develops in line with needs, not in line with academic want, which ultimately we all get caught up in behind. And as I say, there is no national framework of bringing all of those concepts together yet. And as I say, those who shout loudest tend to succeed, but those who don't have the ability to shout so loud get left behind. That's not the right way of doing it either.
Perfect segue to Natalie and Ian, I think.
Just picking up on a couple of things. First of all, Bola talked about the need for 50 plus people, leaders in organisations, to understand about digital leadership. Something we've done in the supply chain school. We've just developed a whole section about digital leadership. And we've got courses that we now run for managers and owners of small businesses to try to understand what technology is, but actually to understand what the soft skills are to actually lead change in their organisations. The ego thing that you were talking about. And remember in my presentation down at the bottom, I said, have we got the management capabilities in the business to understand what needs to change and to be able to change it and realise you might not be a subject matter expert, but you've still got to be able to lead that change in your organisation. So I think that's one area that's really important. But just coming back to Mike's point about, this multitude of things which need to be done. That's why I like the simplicity of we've got to create buildings and infrastructure which are greener, they're leaner, and they're safer. Those are the 3 things that we need to do. Yes, there's lots of detail which sits beneath those. Then you've got to think about, actually, how do you build differently? And that's the interesting thing for me. And digital is one part of that. But there's other bits, and they're all connected together, those different enablers. But we've got to try not to overcomplicate it. Otherwise, you're just going to lose the audience.
Yeah, just to build on what the guys were saying, especially Mike, about what we were frustrated with in terms of further education and college, is that they can't keep up with the pace of change. And especially in our industry, by the time that they've written the curriculum for something, it's already out of date. So this is why at our school we're for industry, by industry, and we're very reactive, we're very agile. If an employer comes to us, and we work with over 100 employers, they come to us, they need something, we can respond to that. And that's what we need a bit more. But also is picking up on those points that they don't actually know what they want sometimes. Well, a lot of the time. And we work with a lot of housing associations, and the word retrofit and sustainable is bandied around so much. So we get the leaders of the housing associations around the table and said, but what does that mean? What is it? Fabric first? Is it, what do you want? Well, we don't know, we need to retrofit them. Well, come on, let's have a conversation, because we can't train the people that you need to retrofit your properties until you know what that retrofit is and what it is that is deemed retrofit. So there's so much misunderstanding, and it isn't properly defined yet as what we need to push this whole agenda forward any further.
Ian, and I'll come over to questions from the floor.
Yeah, if I can come back on that one. In terms of defining what's needed, one of the things we did in the supply chain school was to say, right, okay, what do we mean by green skills? What do we mean about sustainability? And we've developed a whole range of training needs assessments where you can go in as an individual and benchmark where your skills are against 17 different sustainability topics. By doing that, you can then get an action plan of learning, which is within the school. You can also benchmark your knowledge against others within your sector and overall within the school. And to give you an idea, we had just under 10,000 people did that assessment last year. So we've got lots of data on that. But we've also developed the similar assessments for retrofit, so to understand where your skills are on retrofit, on digital as well, on lean as well, on modern methods of construction. So those 6 things I was talking about before, we've developed what does good look like? So you can actually go in and understand where are my skills gaps, and we'll then give you training, which is free at the point of use. You can access all that training, it's freely available, and you can access that training based upon what your need is. The other thing we've done as well is that individuals, it's about knowledge. it's about gaining that knowledge and those skills. But a company then has to put that knowledge and skills into practice. There's no point getting all the skills in the world and all the knowledge in the world if a company doesn't do anything differently. So we've mirrored all those assessments, those training needs assessments, with company capability assessments. So this is, what does a company actually do? And the great thing about that is a company can assess what they do. And again, if I'm a dry liner, I can see, am I doing things that my competition are doing? Am I better than my competition, or am I worse? And what does good look like? And it gives a maturity approach. So going from, let's say, beginner up to an expert level, 5 steps of what you need to do to be really leading in the area. And we'll support you with the actions you need to take to go from where you are now to the next step on the ladder. So they exist. We're getting like just under 10,000 people doing these assessments a year. We've got 5,000 different resources available. But, okay, we hit 37,000 people last year, but there's 3 million people work in the construction industry. So I need you all to get on supplychainschool.co.uk and start learning, yeah?
Commercial plug, but it's free, so go and do it.
One,
Right, questions from the floor. We've got 10 minutes left, so have we got any questions? There's one here. Ben, I will pass you my mic. That's going to be the fastest.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, panel. Excellent to see you all here and so dedicated and doing such brilliant things. I'm in further education, as Mike knows, and Mark. And if we are to retrofit 26 million homes, and we've got an ageing workforce at the moment, we need record turbocharged numbers of new entrants. Isn't it time for the national curriculum, coming back down to almost primary school levels, to be introducing both the climate change, the seriousness of the crisis that we face, and also then rebranding the construction industry so it's not sort of muddy boots heavy?
You're absolutely right. And one of the drivers that GCAB identified was, at what age do we start educating young people? And I can honestly say, and a little shiver runs down my spine, we had 2 GCAPs ago, 7 primary schools present how to retrofit their house as part of that initiative. And I think, this is a time, you talk about that, we have to create like this, I call it my national service initiative. We've got to create this green army. And the sadness as I sit here today, in the entire Southwest region, there is not one apprentice working entirely on the retrofit agenda, because nobody has taken that leap. There isn't the qualification, and there isn't the will to make that happen. How many housing associations are crying out and can't get the work done because actually they haven't got a workforce? And today, when I go into my college community and I talk about job opportunities to make a difference to our planet, how do I get a bit of that, they say? Yeah, actually, we haven't got line of sight yet to those employment opportunities. Somebody has to take the leap and go, we will create this workforce, we will give young people the experience, they will become that future workforce that we desperately need.
Anybody else in the panel, or should I take another question? I'll take another question.
Thank you. Terrific so far. What would you do, what would the building industry do with 100, 200,000 young volunteers between school and university working as retrofitters? 2 years ago, 100,000 people, hundreds of thousands of young people were on the street saying they wanted to do something. Today, you need hundreds of thousands. At the moment, they can't think of anything to do. They're all full of climate anxiety. Can you imagine how you could use them? For me, the gaps are logistics, planning, digital, documentation of retrofit, but I'd be interested to know how you would use them and how fast could we do it? A sort of national service.
So if I take my local housing association stock list and I look at these sporadic little spots of activity that go on, why on earth isn't that being done on a larger scale with replication of all of those young people? You take a workforce of 6, 7, 8 young people, 2 really well qualified supervisors, funded duly by education and that housing association, and get them to crack on and do it. There's absolutely no point of those young people sat in the classroom learning how to do it in a simulated environment when actually there's a million+ properties in the Southwest that need that level of attention. And I just think it would absolutely fly. I think it would be an absolutely brilliant initiative. And all the things we've talked about today embedded in that live curriculum, they then exit that program fully aware of the agendas, fully skilled up, and actually retain only 80% of them. I'd be absolutely delighted, because we will start to make a difference.
I'd come in on that as well and say that we've got to, and the point made over here about rebranding the industry. If we approach young people and say, look, the built environment accounts for about 40% of carbon emissions in the UK. Come and join the industry and be part of the solution. Help us fight climate change. Okay, you're going to need different skills to do it, but rebranding it and saying, look, be part of the solution to solve the problems we have with our built environment, to make it more sustainable going forward. That's really important for me. I'd love to see a network of, I think it sounds like it's the beginning, a network of colleges who could take those 100,000 people a year, skill them up, and then put them into the workforce to enable them to do the retrofit challenge that we've actually got.
Mark, can I just come back on that? Great question. So I'm a quantity surveyor. I think the missing link here that's going to get traction is when you talk about the cost or the business opportunity for doing this or not doing this. And one of the things I'm saying and have said, I've gone on record saying this many times, within 2 to 5 years, a built asset with no digital twin will be worth less than a building with a digital twin, right? So that's a commercial differentiator right there. And to your point about what would I do with 200,000 young people, I would commission them to help create the business case for retrofit to achieve the moving definition of that 2050 goal, right? Because their passion in getting that business case to make sense alongside the commercial differentiators will be so obvious. But at the moment, I would align every young person, in my case that means 16 to 25, to create the business case and the urgency around the climate change, which is growing day by day, right? And unless we can get those numbers out of that business case and throw that in front of corporate, this agenda will be seen as something that's just too difficult to do. So young people will bring that to life. I think it's a really good point you make. And it's part of what we're trying to do in the academy. We're not going to get to net zero by any definition without virtual equivalence of our existing built environment. That includes the public realm, right? So it's a really good point that you make. Really good point.
Natalie, do you have anything you want to say on this one or not?
It is a great point, and it's getting those. Going back to what was said earlier, it's with businesses, it's getting the interest from them to get those people on the books. And for us, it's in terms of house building, we need 300,000 houses built per year to get our housing stock anywhere near what it should be. And having people at grassroots, in my sphere, ground workers, plant operators, people with a shovel in their hand to get on site to build those houses. I mean, we're so short on skills in terms of getting people on site, apprentices, but then it's engaging the businesses to take on the apprentices. So with 200,000 young people, that would be fabulous. But yeah, it's convincing the people at the top that they're worth investing in. And bringing them on.
A great question. I'm sadly going to bring it to a close, but I'm just going to summarise from MOBI's perspective. I just came from a session over there, which was being led by Teach the Future, of young people who are really fed up that educators and governments are not putting climate change into the curriculum, which I think is fantastic. And then when I arrived at MOBI, I've been in an industry that says we can't find the young people. Where are they? They're so hard to find. MOBI runs a challenge. The first winners, 5 14-year-old girls from a school in Nottingham with fantastic design. There were plenty of others with them. We've had loads more examples. People are interested in the built environment. They also recognise that the built environment is part of the solution in terms of climate change. We've got to make those pathways clearer for them. If I am interested, how do I get to a quantity surveyor, a planner, an educationalist, somebody leading a construction training school? Because that's not apparent. That's what we can do. We can make those pathways a lot easier and show them how we can do it. But can I thank an amazing panel for their contribution. And thank you ever so much for coming. There wasn't a lot of time for questions. If you want to come and ask the panel questions, please do that. But enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for coming. And thank you, panel.